We're live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July 25th, 2023 meeting of the Human Services Committee. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting. Supervisor Runyon and Supervisor Frazier on the second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? So moved. Privilege of the floor. Any comments from other supervisors or the public before we begin? Hearing nothing, I will move on to the countryside adult home agenda. Welcome, Amy. And we have one request. If you could walk us through that, please.
Absolutely. Most of you probably know that the public home rate is set by the Department of Health every year, so usually around July. And it's increased significantly over the last couple of years. So what we kind of have been looking at during that time period is the fact that we haven't increased our private room rate. So in 2016, the board approved 6 private rooms at $125 a day. That rate hasn't increased at all. Right now, semi-private rate is $140 per day. So we'd like to increase to $172, and each year increase to the same percentage that the public home rate is increased.
Motion to bring that to the floor, please. Supervisor Runyon and Supervisor Frazier on the second. Questions or Supervisor McDevitt?
Just in general terms, competitively, you know,
Increasing
the marketplace, are you going to lose business?
Well, that was my fear in the beginning when we kind of kept that, when we were still under the private and semi-private, where it was we might lose business. I don't think so, because most of the private facilities do tiered pricing. So on top of their daily rate, they're going, anything that a resident requires, there's going to be an upcharge for it. Ours is an all-inclusive 172, and you're going to get all the same care.
Supervisor Chairman.
You're going from 125 to 172?
Well, right now it actually went from 125 to 140 starting July 1st, because we would need to make it equal to what the semi-private rate is, and then it'll go from 140 to 172. And my goal is for September 1st.
Yes. That's, you know, that's a 37% increase if you look at it. I mean, that's pretty steep with private pay, but if you go back to 125,
Right.
you go from 140 up.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. I will call the question. All in favor of approval of request number 1, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Would you like to take us through the census and overtime report too, please?
So we have moved on to the other wing. So hopefully by fall, we will have both wings open and we'll be again admitting again. Right. Currently our census is 25 with 1 private room. And overtime is relatively the same as last year, but I have filled our cooks positions. And hopefully we'll see those numbers go down a little bit more.
Any questions or comments on the census?
I have a question.
Okay, yep.
What do you expect the census will go back to when you're all done with the renovations?
I feel being like 41, 42 would be reasonable. It would be a brand new facility.
What's our what can we, how many?
Capacity.
No, how many can we take? Would it be 48 or how many?
48 is our total capacity that we can admit, but we have 5 private rooms. So that'll bring the number down to 43, and then the 5
43.
private.
But you think you'll go back up to 40 something?
I do. We have a very large referral list, and we do continue to check in, because obviously this has been going on for a while, so we want to make sure the population that we deal with is very fragile, so we make sure that they're still looking, that that they haven't needed a higher level of care, or if they passed during it. But our referral list is pretty significant.
Amy, can I just ask a question? Go back to the chairman's question about the percentage increase. Is it possible that since 2016, we were drastically under charging for the rooms as compared to other similar facilities?
Well, it goes back to that tiered pricing too. So even though we might be comparable with the flat room rates, we're not doing that tiered pricing. So we lose quite a bit from that. But if we go back, we ran the numbers and done spreadsheets quite a bit through this process to bring it to committee. We actually decreased what, if we had gone from the percentages that we had been getting from the public home rate all the way up, it would have been way over $200 a day. I felt that was too significant to increase all at once. So we thought the 172 compared to what's out there was reasonable.
Okay. Anyone else? And the overtime report?
You already did that.
Oh, you already, I'm sorry, okay, I was, my mind was someplace else, okay. Any other questions for Amy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day. You're on, Mr. Commissioner.
Morning, everyone. First item that I have is to introduce a couple of guest speakers. We have Southern Adirondack Independent Living here, and represented with by Cam Cardinale, who's going to introduce us to a couple of the staff members here. Cam is from Advocate. He works with them from a marketing aspect and a public relations aspect. And then we have Major Leo Lloyd here from Salvation Army, who will talk for a few minutes in regards to the transition to new leadership at Salvation Army here in Warren County. So Cam, if you want to come up and introduce them.
For each supervisor.
Some packet for everybody. I'm Jennifer Shirky. I'm the director for at Southern Adirondack Independent Living.
Yeah, I'm director of benefit services.
And our executive director is Tyler Whitney. He was she could be here with us today, but unfortunately was unable to be. So inside your packets, you will find some information in regards to ballots, a brief overview. We provide a variety of services from transition to health insurance, that includes marketplace, Medicaid, Medicare assistance with facilitated enrollment. And what most people know us for is our free equipment loan program, which we call our training program. Transition means that we're taking people out of nursing homes, or we are diverting them from going into nursing homes, and we do operate the nursing home transition and diversion waiver program and the traumatic brain injury waiver program out of the office. And we do serve about 600 people in the Adirondack region that program.
And with our insurance programs, we serve pretty much everybody from birth through end of life. We assist people in applying for insurance. And then also after they're enrolled, if they have any questions, concerns, billing issues, anything like that, we can assist them.
Part of our free equipment loan program, we currently have 4,000 pieces of equipment out in the community being utilized at no cost to the individual. And those loans range anywhere from 30 days, 60, 90, or if the person needs it long term, we may extend it out for a long-term loan and they just return it when they're completed with it, or we'll assist them in getting insurance coverage.
And our advocacy program, we assist people with benefits advisement and benefits assessment. So whether it's for SNAP, Medicaid or Social Security, they can come to us and we can assist with that. Something that we're looking for is to actually have our brochures and our business cards put into notices that go out in the mail from Department of Social Services for Medicaid consumers or SNAP consumers. We see a lot of people come to sale with, when they get these notices, like, I don't know what this means, I need help trying to figure this out. And instead of them calling Department of Social Services with these questions, they can come to us, we can assist them and kind of bypass that and help Department of Social Services out in that way.
You know that when those renewal notices go out, it can be incredibly confusing to individuals, and sometimes they would rather just not deal with it, so it might go to the bottom of the pile. But if they have a phone number and a card, that they can call us, come to our office or speak with us over the phone, it may assist in that process and also assist your Warren County in regards to that, maybe phone calls from them, and make sure that those renewals get in on time.
Does anyone have any questions for the ladies from sale? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes, I'm looking at your locations here. You guys cover an awful lot of geography. Queensbury, Plattsburgh, Saratoga Springs. That's a lot of humanity. You're doing, if your brochure says anything, you're truly doing God's work here in the community, and I'm amazed, but it's got to be a tough job. Yeah, in terms of seeing people that are in trouble and need help and disabled.
Just gotta meet them where they're at and want to be a resource for people. So if anything, if people leave with either information, resources, assistance, obtaining what they need, or a warm heart handoff to somebody who can assist them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. I've accessed the equipment program for family, friends, constituents, and people that I work with, and it's a seamless process, but well needed and great work. Anything going on at sale tomorrow?
Yes, we have our Unity event in celebration of the Americans with Disability Act. That's from 11:30 to 1:30 tomorrow. All are welcome. We have free food. Mr. Dingling's gonna be there with free ice cream, the bounce house for children, and lots of providers there with.
30, I understand.
Yeah.
Lots of tabling providers.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Just maybe we could get some brochures to the towns.
yep.
Sales.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, you have some.
And if you run out in your town halls or municipalities, please contact us. We have plenty and we'll make sure to get them to you. And we've got Cam who will make sure that we are fully stocked.
Dan, do you have something?
Yeah, just, it says, technology-related assistance for individuals with disabilities trade. This is 30-day medical equipment loans. What happens at the end of 30 days if the individuals are still in need?
They can just reach out to our office and let us know that they need it for a longer period of time, and then we can extend it out to 50, 90, and like I said, if they need it beyond that, then we'll work on a plan with them so that they can continue to keep it. And if it's a more expensive piece of equipment, they'll work with one of our advocates at SAL to help to try to get their insurance to cover that piece of equipment, or we'll help to try to find funding for it. If not, then they can return it when they're done. We just need to have that communication in regards to where it is and why it's still out.
Right, and this is what type of equipment, all?
So everything. So we have durable medical equipment, which we typically think of as like your commodes, walkers, wheelchairs, Hoyer lifts. Then we have some recreational equipment. We've got a wonderful beach chair that we have. If anyone's looking to look at it, it's great. It goes right onto the sand and can go right into the water. So we've actually had some individuals who've never been able to experience going into the lake or the ocean who borrowed our beach chair and been able to go in, which is wonderful. And then we have some early intervention equipment, and then we have technology related equipment like iPad, pocket talkers, FM systems, computers, Chromebooks, all types of things. We can also assist with somebody who might have a disability and is trying to enter the workforce. We might have equipment that might be able to assist them there as well.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Our next presenter is my fellow Bostonian.
Yes.
We'll see in our basement.
Good morning, Major.
Good morning. See you all in sunshiny faces again. I'm a little less nervous this time. Feel quite comfortable after having me up to talk about transitions. I did not anticipate being transferred from Glens Falls. I'm just under 4 years to retirement in the Salvation Army, and I had expectations of doing it all here. But my boss came to me and asked me, would I consider taking an appointment in Elmira, New York? And reason being is the offices that are in Elmira, New York have 4 boys. And they were placed in Elmira as just a temporary duty assignment, because where they were supposed to go last year, the Salvation Army officer died, and they didn't want to disrupt the widow. And so they just temporarily placed them in Elmira, and not a great fit for that family. The officers that are coming here from Elmira, Major Steve and Delia Carroll, I know them well. In fact, I started in the Salvation Army under his father. We call him Big Steve, because he's about 6 foot, 300 something, giant guy. And we call the guy coming here Little Steve, but he's not that little. So he's a major in the Salvation Army, which means that he served for quite some time, experienced officer. So you shouldn't have any trouble. We're very used to having to change appointments in the Salvation Army. It comes with an extensive briefing process. So I left about a 50-page brief for him, really detailing relationships and programs and visions, and things that we've worked on. We had the opportunity to have Major Steve Carroll up, and I was able to bring him over to Chris's office, and both him and Nina got to spend time with him. I was able to bring him down to the city and meet with the mayor's staff, and so he's already made his way around even before the appointment. You should know that the Meals on Wheels program is going really well. So well that after I leave here today, we're going to some other towns who are thinking about asking us to take over. So we'll see about that, some other counties. I was on a phone call with the divisional commander of upstate New York of the Salvation Army, and he asked me to stay involved with this program because, I kind of brought it. So Major Steve Carroll will be in charge here locally, but we're staying involved because the Salvation Army wants to look at maybe this being a pilot to bring to other communities. A lot of communities are struggling with their senior nutrition programs, and if we can, kind of put our franchise stamp on it here, maybe we can expand it. So the Army is very committed to Warren County's senior nutrition program. I was able to add to one of my employees' job description. Some of you have met Hillary Aquay. We were able to bring her on staff a couple of years ago during the pandemic. And when I interviewed her, I said, Hillary, you are way too qualified to be coming to work for me. She has an MBA and, a 6-figure girl. I said, what? Why are you applying at the Salvation Army? She said the pandemic has changed everything. And so we were able to expand her job description. Now she's going to be the person in charge of the Meals on Wheels contract. We also brought a Salvation Army employee up for Saratoga, Vicky. And so we have some really fine local leadership. So the new majors coming in won't have to do much except stay out of their way. That's what I wrote in the brief. Stay out of the girls' way. They know exactly what they're doing. Hillary's been here since the inception. So we gave her a title of business manager, and she's gonna manage the contracts for the county, and the county employees know Hillary well, and she works in tandem with social service coordinator Michelle Foley. So we're leaving the county, I think, in really good shape. You know, I'm excited to see what comes of this, and I think that the transition should be smooth. They left my wife and I in place in order to make sure that we launched it, so that the cows didn't have to come in and launch it. Normally moves in the Salvation Army happen at the end of June. They let me stay through mid-August to make sure that the transition was smooth. Everything's in place. We were able to hire, I think, all of the county employees with the exception of 2. And we gave everybody a raise. That was something that I promised this group here, so I want you to know that that happened. The 2 county employees that decided not to come with us, one had a lot of time with the county. And that was just not to her advantage, you know, to leave the county. I don't know if the other one's staying with the county or moving on, but we did offer them, you know, comparable or more. And so everybody but those 2 came with us. We filled all the positions, so we're very excited. We have 100% of the positions filled. And now we're working on volunteers. I think we've added a couple of volunteers. I think the goal for us is smooth transition from county to Salvation Army, which is taking place. Add to the volunteer base so that we can move from 3 days delivery to 5 days delivery. And get congregate meals established again. The first thing that you'll see happen probably in September is congregate meals start again at Cedars. Cedars is very excited about that. Sometime after the first of the year, we'll have congregate meals happening at Cedars and the Salvation Army. And as soon as the volunteer base is ready, I think we have about 80 volunteers right now. The math says that we need 100. We'd like to get to about 110, 120 volunteers to move to 5 days a week so that we have some redundancy. But we're starting to tick up with that. So I can't give you a firm date on when we'd be able to go 5 days. It just depends on how soon, you know, we had the volunteer base. I think the last thing that I want to update you on, we received some ARPA money to extend refrigeration for this program and for the Salvation Army's mission in the county. And we went through a couple of bidding cycles. Now, you know, I think we're through that. I got the last bids in yesterday. And so I think that depending on how soon the equipment manufacturer can deliver, but I'll be submitting that invoice to the county this week. And you can probably expect to see install on that in the next 6 to 8 weeks, just depending on how fast, you know, the manufacturer's turnaround is. So we're excited. Everything's moving forward. It was a long time talking and planning and back and forth. But it's launched. It's launched well, and we don't believe that this transition, you know, will make any difference at all. Again, because we're leaving local personnel in charge with the responsibility. I did that intentionally. That way, we make sure that you know, the mission moves on. You know, regardless of who the guy wearing the polyester is, you know, it'll be okay. Yes.
Where is the congregate meal site located for Glens Falls?
So Glens Falls, we're gonna be doing it at the Salvation Army. And that will happen at 37 Broad Street. We have an auditorium that can sit about 300 folks. We also have, it's a former St. Alphonsus school, so we also have classrooms that can comfortably sit 30 to 40. So the idea is we'll start advertising it during the holiday season and see what the people, you know, want, you know, how many folks surrounding high rises that want to come over and congregate. We'll probably start it in one of the classrooms, and then if it goes into the auditorium space, it'll go there. We've centralized all of the cooking at Cedars. It was a better, it was where everybody was used to going to pick up meals. It was where the folks were used to. Cedars offered us pretty good terms on a lease, and they have extra space for the refrigeration. So right now, we're doing all the cooking there. I think that's the plan, even when we do congregate at both locations. We're just gonna bring the food hot down to the Salvation Army and serve it and serve it there. So probably I would say that congregate for the Salvation Army is slated for first of next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the major, Mr. Wild?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you for your efforts here. One of the things we talked about very early on in the concept of this program was training of our workforce. Is that happening?
Yeah, it's a component of it. So when I wrote the business plan for this, I added in a workforce development program. We'll partner with Liza's office for entry level food service workers. And then those positions will be bookended, so they'll only be 90-day, jobs. So we're taking referrals from the county social service and their workforce development office. And these are like resume building jobs, because folks have a little trouble with their resume for whatever reason. And they're on county benefits right now, however, they could be working. And so then the goal was, we'll give you a guaranteed job. And if you show up for 90 days and do a good job, then we'll give you a warm handoff. We do have some limited funding for that. And we're also working with the county to see if we can expand that funding just to help with the wages of those workers. So we've left opportunity that we could bring on 1 to 2 folks per 90-day cycle, for a part-time job. Those jobs are working in the kitchen. Think dishwasher, think food prep, think, sweeping the floor, entry-level kitchen service, kind of thing.
Anyone else? Thank you, Major. Godspeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for the invitation to our two groups. If you could take us through request number 1, we've got, I think, 3 personnel issues, a transfer of funds, and a request to amend a policy. So if you could take us through request number 2, please.
All right, the second item we have is an action item to request a continuation extension of the petition, the position of a part-time assistant social services attorney from 60 days to 100 days. This is related to resolution number 159 of 2023. Part-time assistant social services attorney position will terminate after 60 days. Once a full-time assistant social services attorney is hired. We did hire someone who actually just started yesterday, but we still need the assistance of this part-time attorney to get through the workload that we have, because we have been down at an attorney for medical reasons for a while. The vacant position of the permanent full-time social services attorney will cover the costs of this as well, because we just hired someone and we had the full-time position in our budget starting at the beginning of the year. So it's not going to affect our budget much at all here. Also, the additional time will allow for best possible transition to this new worker who needs to be trained, and the person that we hired part-time is extremely competent and experienced. They had actually been an attorney with us in the past, so we're glad to have him here. So that's what we have on that position.
Okay, motion to bring that.
Any questions?
Supervisor Rossi and Supervisor second. Questions or comments? Supervisor Bruno.
So what is the increased cost associated with this? Is there an increase?
There's actually no increased cost. Obviously, it does cost salary to have this person there, but it's going to be balanced out by the fact that we did not have the full-time assistant social services attorney filled the entire year up until yesterday. So that money remained in our budget. Obviously, we used some of that for this part-time attorney over the last couple of months, but we still have available funding for this position.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? I'll call the question. All in favor of approval of request number 2, say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? So moved. On to request number 3, please, Chris.
Number 3 and 4 kind of go together. These are 2 part-time community services worker positions that we had in our organizational chart. They were funded by donations from the Warren County Children's Committee. That funding is running out, so we are asking to continue by recreating these 2 positions. Part-time community service worker in our foster care unit, 20 hours a week. There are no benefits with these. And to keep these positions in place because they assist our foster care caseworkers. They prove valuable in meeting deadlines and reducing overtime as well. As I've discussed in the past with these positions, they do a lot of work that might require, most likely would require overtime for workers to complete after hours once they're done with their typical caseload work and duties during the day. There also has been an increase in our needs for supervising weekly visitations, which they also do for children who are in the care and custody of the Commissioner of Social Services.
Hearing the commissioner's request, do I have a motion to batch request number 3 and 4 together and move them to the floor? Supervisor Bruno and Supervisor Runyon on a second. Questions or comments? Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, Chris, are these going to be permanent positions?
We're asking to add them permanently to our organizational chart to be used when needed. So going forward, we would like to have these positions available in case we need them. They are part-time, so what tends to happen is people will come in and maybe work in these positions and eventually look for a full-time position within DSS. Sometimes they find positions outside of DSS, but we are looking to keep these in our org chart. And we will be requesting that during budget time for next year.
If I can follow up.
Sure.
There's so many open full-time positions you have right now. These type of roles.
For these folks, these 2 positions are currently full. So we have, these are the only 2 positions we have for part-time community services assistant. Full-time, we have close to 170 full-time staff at DSS, and I believe we probably have only about 4 or 5 open positions right now. So we're doing pretty well.
Let me start with phrases. How many full-time positions do you have filled that are that their role is related to this foster care?
We are, I think, almost to full capacity for the full-time positions. The problem is that currently we have almost all new people in these positions, which are going through trainings before they can carry a full caseload and actually do some of this work. The other issue is that we've been seeing increased caseloads. And when you have increased caseloads, especially when you have them in foster care, you have more court-ordered visitation for families. And these workers can handle that as well. It's very time-consuming. So they handle that work as well. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Have a motion and a second. So I'll call the question for request number 3 and 4. All in favor of approval? Say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Both moved. So request number 5, please, Chris.
Okay, number 5 is a request for transfer of funds from the regular salaries line to salaries overtime of $50,000. And from unemployment insurance to health insurance cost reimbursement of $1,500 to cover these expenses accordingly. Our overtime, of course, is really dependent on factors that are outside of our control sometimes, such as court orders. Children might come into care. But the most expensive one that we've been really seeing a lot lately is after hours on call and training programs for new employees, because they tend to have longer days, especially with travel incorporate into that. I would like to mention that when we do have trainings that are out of town, we do a cost analysis, whether it would be less expensive for them to stay there or to pay the additional overtime and travel expenses. Usually with us, we are very fortunate in Warren County because we're close to the training center. There's only one training center in New York State now. Our overtime that we expend on training due to these extra hours is actually quite a bit less than other counties might have, especially when you consider counties that are out in the western part of the state. Needless to say, though, we still have it. So that's a big factor in there, especially when you have, you know, a dozen or more trainees over several months who are getting some overtime pay due to the fact that they're working outside of hours because of travel time.
Any other questions or comments? Request to move this to the floor, number 5. Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor McDevitt on the second. Additional comments or questions? Hearing nothing, I will call the question. All in favor of approval of request number 5, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. On to number 6, which is a request to amend the policy.
Yeah, the last action item I have is a request to amend the Social Security, Social Services burial policy and related cost. The revised policy and a copy of the last change, which was back in 2005, are attached. Overall burial expenses have increased greatly for these companies that handle our burials. The policy has not been amended or increased since 2005, which is quite some time. We recently reviewed requests from the Adirondack Funeral Directors Association, and I personally spoke with commissioners from other counties to see what they were doing so that we could all be in line. Again, the prices for Warren County have not been increased since 2005. If you see the attached documentation, you'll see the increases that we are asking for so that we can continue to help the indigent in Warren County in regards to burials.
Motion to move that to the floor, please. Supervisor Frazier and Supervisor Runyon on this second. Questions or comments? Yes. Hearing nothing, I will call the question. All in favor of approval of request number 6, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So move. Discussion items, Chris, please.
I really don't have anything more to discuss today, other than I would like to thank this committee for all your support over the last several meetings I've had. We brought a lot of stuff here that was important for our department to continue to run smoothly and efficiently and service the residents of Warren County. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Going forward, these are going to be big helps, you know, in reaching our goals. I think the only other thing we have is maybe Julie wants to speak a little bit to budget related items.
Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. The revenue and expenditures through June, so this gives us a really good picture halfway through the year of where we're at. And if you take a look, we're almost spot on at 50% in both expenses and revenue. So we're right where I would expect to be. So barring any major issues, we should be able to maintain hopefully through 2023.
Any questions or comments for Julie regarding the finance report? I'll just remind people as Chris put in the agenda. It was past Thursday. I emailed his monthly status report to all of the members on your county email addresses. So if you didn't get that, shoot me an email and I'll make sure that you get that next month. But that goes out usually before the board meeting, so you have a chance to kind of read and digest what's going on at ESS. No referrals or pending items. Any other privilege of the floor, public comment from the public, other supervisors? If nothing, I'll add for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Supervisor Tarasi and Supervisor McDevitt, all in favor? Great.